tell you who's got plenty of talent and he is a little bit injured. It's Taylor Adams from the Collingwood Football Club. He's our man in the Inner Sanctum on this Thursday morning, and he's rocketed into the studio at pace. He's going beautifully. Taylor, good morning.
Good morning, Half. Yeah, I'm moving a little bit better, mate.
No crutches.
No crutches. Still got this bionic knee brace on, so not completely free, but getting there.
You look almost like a stormtrooper. on the way your legs sort of set up there right next to me.
Yeah, well, I actually forget that I've got it on, so people obviously give me a weird look like I shouldn't be walking around like I am, but it's feeling really good. Actually started running with it on Saturday. When I say running, I mean shuffling and at a very slow pace. So improving. Get this off on Monday if everything goes well, and we start progressing back to return to play.
How does that feel when you're shuffling? Because you probably couldn't run with that thing on. Shuffling with that on, because it's different heights to your feet and your runners and stuff. Does it throw your hips out of whack when you start doing that stuff?
A little bit. It certainly doesn't feel that natural. But it felt really good. I just wanted to get outside and get moving, sort of tick a little bit of a box, and the fact that I hadn't ran for over 2 weeks was starting to eat away at me. So just being able to get outside and move, probably more so for my mental well-being, was really positive.
Well, our man's been unwell for 3 days. He's been in bed, locked up, cooped up, as they say in the industry. How are you going? He didn't cope very well, by the way. And this is the reason I mention it. Cabin fever set in for our man.
Really?
He just didn't cope very well at all. You're a go-get-him sort of guy, and you haven't been able to go get him in the last little while. How have you coped with that? Yeah,
well, I haven't been able to play. Still had plenty on my plate. Obviously, spending a lot of time at the footy club still, and trying to progress with my rehab every day, and got a bit of a crew down there at the moment. So rehab crew. So we've been up in our altitude room at the footy club and smashing out circuits and bikes and you name it, we've done it up there. So we're having a bit of fun with that, trying to stay busy outside of footy, and also trying to contribute, while I can, or how I can off the field. I actually did a little coaching role with the VFL on the weekend because we had 4 or 5 guys that were cooped up at home, given the travel restrictions from Perth.
Yes. So
we lost half of our midfield coaching staff and support staff. So I was able to step up and help out, which is an awesome experience. But yeah, I'm still staying obviously heavily involved with the guys, and there on match day and feel as involved as I possibly could be.
So what are you doing when you're coaching? Because I imagine with the VFL particularly, you haven't been involved in the preparations of that game and what they're trying to achieve. What are you trying to pass on as the midfield coach, I imagine?
Yeah, so I coached the midfield. It was sort of sprung on me really late. The guys only found out that they had to be tested and self-isolate about 11 p.m. the night before the VFL game.
Oh, right.
So I got the call up about 8 a.m. on the day of the game. So, but I've been asked that a couple of times, but our structures and the way we want to play at VFL level are really similar to the way we want to play at AFL level.
Right.
We've got different players at the VFL. We had 3 or 4 Oakley Chargers players who came in and helped us out, which was awesome. My message was pretty similar to what it was for what we've been trying to do at the AFL level in terms of our midfield craft. Tackling pressure and contested ball, and we had a really young team play in the VFL, and it was just a great experience to sit up in the coach's box and have the cams on and yell down at the bench and have that that experience of speaking to players when they're on the bench and at quarter time and 3/4 time. So it was good.
I'm interested, Taylor. So it's been 3 weeks since the injury, or 4? I was trying to count.
2.5.
2.5. So you're coming up 3 weeks. How quickly do you lose your fitness, or can you do other things that means you don't lose your fitness?
Yeah, we try to slow that process down as much as possible. Everyone talks about football fitness, and it's different to sort of any other type of fitness that you do. The fact that I haven't been able to run means I would have certainly lost some fitness, but we've been going pretty hard in the rehab group. And
so what are the? Because I'm interested when people say that you're in rehab. Yeah. So what does that? I'm sure plenty of people listening would be interested in what is that? What do you do to keep yourself fit? Because if someone like I'll leave half out of it. If I'm too busy with work and don't get to go for a walk or don't get to do anything, I can tell after 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But for you, who is a finely tuned athlete, what can you tell that you start to feel a bit worried that you're losing your fitness?
Oh, well, I only really had 3 or 4 days where I was basically inactive, obviously on those crutches. I got rid of those as soon as I could, and I started with walking, getting out every morning and walking my dogs, and trying to keep that muscle tone in my leg. It's really important that you don't lose that the quad tone, so that when you do come back, you don't risk another injury.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the footy club, we're doing boxing, bikes, ellipticals, ropes, ski ergs. Got this big sweat room at the club, so it's our altitude room. So we set that up and go pretty hard in there for 45 minutes or an hour most days, and then follow up with weights and all of our injury prevention programs that are designed to ensure that when you do return to running in the field, that, as I said before, there's a reduced likelihood of re-injury.
So you don't have to eat differently because you're worried that...
I've been eating differently, yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
So what are the different things you have to eat?
Well, I just drop calorie consumption.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're trying to maintain weight.
A number that you aim to for each day? I'm trying to get some tips here, Huff.
Not particularly. No, I'm at the point now where I know my body pretty well, that I know if I'm eating well or not.
Yeah.
And obviously we're obviously focusing heavily on proteins and a lot of fruit and veg, just to potentially help that healing inside the knee. Who knows if it works, but if it does, then it might give me 1%. But yeah, that's absolutely one thing that I certainly focus on. Some guys struggle maintaining weight. They drop weight really quickly. I'm a person that if I do too many weights at the gym, I'll put on too much size and too much weight. So I'm trying to hover around that 82, 83 kilos.
I used to hover around there.
Yeah, so did I. Back in my youth.
That was a long time ago now. Not so hovery these days. Calorie intake's a problem. Hey, what have you made of the last couple of weeks of the Pies? I imagine there would have been a lot of disappointment post Anzac Day in the way that game unfolded, because despite the fact that probably Essendon had the better of the momentum through the majority of the contest, you were still in it for a long time until that last 20 minutes of the game or so. What was the feedback from that like? Yeah,
well, we've been in plenty of games this year that we haven't been able to convert to wins, so that's certainly an area for improvement for us. We've worked hard on why that is. We've reviewed really hard and really strongly on what areas of our game we can improve. Obviously, our back half ball movement was pretty awful on the weekend, particularly in the first half. We gave them the opportunity to own territory for a majority of that first half. It made it really hard for us to score. They made us defend for a long period of that game, and at the moment we sort of find ourselves doing that quite a bit. Their pressure was really good, and we probably didn't match that. Our tackling efficiency was down. That was highlighted throughout the week and trained yesterday. So, yeah, we were disappointed. The fact that Brody Mychek put us a couple of points in front, and then from then on they kicked 3 or 4 in a row and were able to sort of walk away with a relatively convincing win. We were certainly disappointed in the result.
So, on the back of that, you're now 1-5. Has the dynamic changed? Has the conversation changed about what 2021 is at the Pies?
No, not really. Obviously, that question's been asked quite a bit. For us as athletes and players, it's sort of, we're relatively short-sighted in what we want to achieve.
Yep.
Some people will, if I say we want to play finals, will say you're crazy. But of course, we still want to play finals. That's definitely our end game. But right now, it's we understand that we're not playing well enough to warrant that. We've been really inconsistent. So from the position that I sit in, where I'm not able to actually influence on game day, and I'm working really closely with our leadership group and with Bucks and his coaching group on how we turn this around. We're really short-term focused about how we can improve this. So next training session? What's our next review? How do we get better at that? We thought we trained really well yesterday and had some focus areas. You sure you should be here, Whitey? We had some strong focus areas that were trained. And we it's a process that you just got to continue to repeat. The fact that we are 1-5 isn't good, but it doesn't change the process that has worked for us over 4 or 5 years.
So I'm sure you would have had some expectations coming into the season about what was possible and achievable for this group.
Yeah.
And great faith and belief in the group, I'm sure. Have you shifted your assessment of what you are as a team, just personally?
No, not really, no. I think our best football, when we play consistently, is good enough.
Yep.
But right now, we're not seeing that. And, we're working our way through how we can find that consistency, find that Collingwood brand that people have seen over the last 4 or 5 years. It's really uncompromising and, we're really hard to play against. And at the moment we've sort of we've gone away from that, and we're playing a very different brand of football that clearly doesn't win games of footy.
What is that different brand you're playing at the moment?
Oh, there's probably 2 or 3 things that really stand out for us. Our ability to control the ball, make the teams defend us rather than spending large chunks of the game in defence and having to defend them for large periods. The other aspect is, like I said, our tackling and our pressure. We've been a top 4 tackle pressure side over the last 4 years. I think we're sitting at 15th or 16th in that aspect right now.
Yeah, right.
So it's a really big change for us off the back of our game is built off the back of pressure, and if we don't bring that, it makes it really hard for us to control the game in the way we'd like.
So that says to me, because of the way that you've built that template in the last couple of years and been that pressure team, it says to me that there's a different way you're playing the game or defending the game, and where you don't have as many numbers around the contest or around where the ball is. Is that fair to assess that things are so different from a movement perspective, either offensively or defensively, that you're taking yourselves out of the ability to have numbers around the ball to influence and impact physically the game, like contest and pressure and tackles?
Yes and no. Our structure is very similar, but the consistency of players being in role isn't.
Yeah, okay.
We've obviously had some young guys come in. We've lost some really experienced players. We've been a role-based team.
Yep.
So, if you're not in your role, you get called out for it. And if you are in your role, you get praised for it and we'll get results.
Yep.
And we've seen that work. So guys buy into it. And it's not necessarily a lack of guys wanting to do it. It's maybe the fatigue factor, being able to concentrate for long enough, knowing your role as a younger player, less experienced player. That's part of it. The other part is just simply, let's get the job done. Stick tackles, pressure, buy into the pressure game.
Yeah.
And we've seen that players haven't been able to do that consistently for the first 6 rounds.
So do you train pressure now? That's what's happening? And are you prepared to lose a few? Because when you train pressure and tackling, sometimes you lose a few soldiers along the way. Are you prepared to lose a few to win the war?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fine line. We're currently in the middle of a 6-day break, so we had training yesterday, and we put the mouth guards in and went to work, and we're able to build some confidence out of it. I think that's something. I think you have to train that. A lot of people think that tackling is just an intent, and yes, partly is. But my opinion is that there's a technique element to it, and it's not just as simple as running around with chooks with no heads. It's there's actually a method to how you pressure, and we've got that wrong early. So that's something we're focused on. We highlighted in our review. We've seen vision on where we can get better at it, and we've gone out and trained it. So we expect to see a spike this week.
I noticed the almost match simulation yesterday, which is rare, particularly during a 6-day break. Did it get willing?
No, we always play 18v18, regardless of the 6 or 7 day break. And that's just to sort of get a feel for what the opposition might throw up against us. Obviously we scout what Gold Coast may do. And then, we sort of plan, make slight little tweaks to our game style to help combat that. So, we do that every week. It's always relatively competitive, and we want it to be. We think that's we try to train the way we play. It's obviously impossible to replicate match-like intensity, but we want to go as close to that without crossing the line as possible.
It's interesting, Taylor, because I think every year there are teams that, through the first 6 games, perhaps lose 2 games that they don't expect that they would lose. And some teams can cope with that and not panic, and other teams can't cope with it and they panic and they lose all their confidence and structure, and their season gets away with them quite quickly. How are you feeling at the moment? Because I look at Collingwood and think, you shouldn't have lost that game to the Giants. You lose after the siren against Brisbane. Those 2 games flip them, and things are okay with the Suns and North Melbourne in the next 2 weeks. So internally, is the confidence an issue, particularly with the young players that are coming in, or do you feel that everything's still okay?
Well, that's our job as leaders of the football club, is to make sure that players still feel confident in what we're trying to achieve. And how we're trying to achieve it. That's probably the issue right now. I think like I said, our brand has shifted. We've gone away from what's been really effective for us, and we've needed a realignment to reinforce that this is how we want to play, and this is what works for us, and what has worked for us, and what will work for us. It's about educating. Removing any of the confusion that players may be experiencing, and that realignment of this is how we're going to go about it. Some really simple focuses, and going out and training and executing it. It's actually our process is pretty simple. It's not rocket science.
Yeah. See, because I don't want to give you an out, but watching your team play on Sunday was almost like an eye-opening experience of how many players out there that I didn't really know a lot about. They've played a few games here and there, but with what you've taught us over the time about the way you play, you have to rely on all 22 to be playing a certain way. Is it as simple as a personnel thing, that you've just got too many good players out of the team that are making it hard for you to play the way you want to play? I don't want to give you an out, but it feels that there's a bit like that.
Yeah, you take 4 or 5 of your top 8 players out of any team, and there's going to be an impact. We've lost some depth over the last 12 months. You look at not only the players that were moved on through the trade period, but you look at the guys that retired. There's premiership players in that bracket that we lose a lot of experience that would just come in and fill a role and play it really well. But we still think that the team that went out on the weekend should have won the game.
Yep.
And so, we don't see that as an out. It's definitely a factor, because who wouldn't want Jordan Goey or Jeremy Howe playing, or Jamie Elliott playing? What team wouldn't have them in their starting lineup? So, we understand that that's part of it. We've got young guys that continue to put their hand up to come in and play a role for us. With really little experience at AFL level. We had a number of players in that bracket on the weekend, but they're expected to play and role no different to how Penrith is expected to play and role, and they understand that.
There's been a few of them for the team that had no kids. Now you've got kids coming out your ear holes. McCreary's played a few. McRae's played a couple. Rantel debuted on Anzac Day. Ollie Henry's played a game early doors, and looks like Caleb Poulter might come in this week. Tell us about that young man.
Yeah, Poltz, he's a bit of a club icon already with his mullet. He's a beautiful left foot kick. South Australian boy that he'll play, mostly on a wing, high forward. He can play high back. Lightly built, but moves really, really well, and has put a nice block of form together in a team that was pretty well beaten in the VFL on the weekend. He played really well, and he's played well for a number of weeks now. So he was sort of knocking the door down, and he had a great pre-season. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do.
Righto. And I'm not trying to be facetious here or silly. Is there any stage through the last 6 weeks where you thought, geez, it'd be nice to have ads floating around?
I haven't thought that, but it would be. Like he's playing very, very well at the Doggies. Yes, I would. Yeah, we could definitely use some of his experience and his depth and his competitiveness for sure. He's it's great to see him doing so well. He's put a power of work. He looks like he's trimmed down the big fella. He's
Is he?
Yeah, he looks like he's moving really well. And well, I'm not too sure if he has, but it looks like it. So I think the way that he's positioned himself to have a really good year is good on him.
I feel it's a bit of a deja vu type situation talking to Taylor about this, because this is where you're at, 2017, I think, when you were coming in here talking about when things weren't going so well and the pressure was clearly on the coach. How is Nathan going? Because he copped it yesterday in the media conference and talked about how, he still wants to be the coach and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Have you seen a difference in him, or is he still the same Nathan Buckley?
No, he seems the same. Like I said, we're working really closely with Bucks as a leadership group to work out how we can get better quickly. We're as I said, we're not writing this season off. We're looking forward to the next opportunity to go out and play. He seems to be doing really well. Obviously, he's been through a really difficult period before in terms of his coaching career in 2017, and I dare say he would have learnt some things from that and taken away some coping mechanisms. There's obviously a lot of pressure on Collingwood coaches, but let alone a guy that's been around for 30 years and is probably one of the best ever Collingwood players. It's certainly heightened. So I think he's been fantastic in the way he's handled it with the group. He's been really open and transparent with us as leaders, and he's listened really well. And we're in conversations all the time about what we can do better inside the four walls of our football club to make sure that we steer ourselves out of this.
Do you chat to him now that you're not playing as much? Do you get a chance to chat to him a bit more about life and footy and whatever? Do you have a bit more time with him?
Yeah. So absolutely, yeah. I'm sitting in the box on the weekends, so he's always asking for feedback about for opinions and thoughts on what we can do better. It's good to sit back and see how the coaching group is operating. For my personal experience, it's and growth. It's really important. I see that as a really important part of my leadership role at the footy club, to learn off our leaders in Bucks and Graham Wright, Sando, Robert Harvey, and the guys that sit up in there and work together in the box under immense pressure. I've had really good conversations with Bucks about moving forward and how we can rectify our slow start to the year, and that's been with contribution from all of our leaders.
Yep. And this week's game, and not having any control over it because you can't be out there, you're nervous or excited about what might be on offer at the MCG against the Gold Coast Suns?
No, I'm excited. They're a team that are playing really, really well. They gave Sydney a touch up, who have been an informed team in the competition. So, I think the way that they play, uncontested style, a lot of hold onto the ball, it sort of feeds into what we need to work on. So, it'll be a real challenge for us, defending them with ball in hand. They've got some awesome ball users out of the back line. So, I'm excited. I think this is the week that we can turn it around. As I said, it starts with the real basics that I've spoken about: contest, pressure. And I said this a couple of weeks ago, and our ability to defend them, and look forward to seeing what we can do off the back of that. I'm
sure Pies fans are very much looking forward to it as well. 1:45 Saturday, Whitey.
I think half you make a good point about excited versus nervousness. I think there was a bit of nervousness in that Giants game that you had all to lose and that you played a bit like that. I think it'll be interesting to see particularly how you start against the Suns.
Yeah.
Because this is a game you should win. But how you approach it mentally as much as anything. That's what I'm going to be looking forward to more than anything else. I think we'll know early how you're going.
Yeah, I think you will too. I think, as I've said, we've got some clear focuses, and they're evident right from the get-go if they're done well. So, I tend to agree with the Giants games. We were probably a little bit passive and on the back foot right from the start. They played well, but it was our game to win, and even through the last quarter, we had our chance with the momentum behind us, but we weren't able to finish the game off.
If Port Adelaide and Adelaide play next... Well, they are going to play next week. If Port Adelaide wear a black and white striped prison bar Guernsey, would you give a Fat Rats clacker?
No.
Thank you very much. Taylor Adams with us in the Sanctum and the Magpies. Nice to chat as always, mate. Look after that foot. The leg.
I will. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's from the top of the leg to the
it's
bottom
the whole
of the
body
leg.
thing, isn't it? Foot, knee, leg, all the whole body thing. Look after those quads. Don't want to get those quads falling away. We don't want to have little chicken legs walking in here as part of the inner sanctum.
Wouldn't you love to be a person that just dropped weight?
That would be nice. That would be nice.
If you had struggled to put it on.
That would be nice.
I need to speak to those people. How do you get that gene? Can you buy it from Bunnings or something?
It's a bit late for us, I think, to have that injected into the system. We'll get to a break. Brad Johnson, not too far away.